Oh, I have one for the worst, probably. Okay, I just remember it.
Oh,
you're going to hate me for this. People are going to hate me.
No, I can share the worst and why I should have never gotten ordained.
I'm sure there's been much weirder stories.
Every time we do this best, worst, and weirdest, you got something good.
Oh, there are lots of stories.
This is Pod Strangely Warmed, a place where we tell the good Methodist story, where we have conversations that invite followers of Jesus to seek after that loving, just, and free world that God imagines for us all, and have a little fun along the way. Happy New Year, Pod Strangely Warm family. This episode is a continuation of our year-end episode from last week, our Pod Strangely Warmed best, worst, and weirdest experiences in ministry. Just like last week, we hope you laugh. We hope you maybe cry a little bit at the really poignant moments, but more than anything, we hope your heart is strangely warmed as we experience the best, worst, and weirdest moments from across the Horizon Texas Conference. David, you began with why I shouldn't have gotten ordained. That's a cliffhanger of an intro, so once you start...
Are you sure you want to do this?
Go.
I'm sure. I've already got the certificate. Bishop Signs mailed me the full connection thing.
Right.
We'll see what the Board of Investigation does. But so when
I'm in it, so
yeah,
no.
right. I'm admitting right in front of the jury. Out of seminary, my wife did a master's degree at University of Kansas, and I already had a job lined up with Billy Eccles-Richter at Grace Avenue, and she chose Kansas instead of North Texas. So we went up there. I fell backwards into this job at Countryside United Methodist in Topeka as a youth, young adults, and sports minister. And so first time coming forward, I'd never planned a mission trip before, but I'd always been kind of like the helper to plan it. So they were big on junior high only goes an hour away from campus. And for whatever reason, I was like, no, junior high kids are so much more capable than this. So I was taking the senior high kids down to Lake Charles, Louisiana to do Hurricane Rita relief. And I decided, well, I'm going to go the other way on 35. So we're going to go to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it was a great trip, but I had a church bus, 26-passenger van, and I had no adults sign up to go with me. And for whatever reason, I didn't think, I can't do this. Right. So I took 17 junior high kids to Minneapolis, Minnesota by myself. I let them run around the Mall of America.
How old were you then?
I was
18?
27.
Okay.
No. I was like 23.
Yeah.
23.
You were
23,
It was pretty
you have
early
an
on.
excuse. 27, you should know better.
I was like, this is like right out of seminary. So it was like 22, 23, maybe 24. But so I'm like, so the fun day is I take them whitewater rafting. So we drive up. We're like an hour and a half, 2 hours from the border of Canada on this river.
You're the only adult.
I'm the only adult besides the river guide. There's a couple other groups with us, but one of the girls who is a staff member's daughter has forgotten to bring her waiver form. So we have to go around town to find a fax machine so where we can get her parents to sign this. So I have to bribe a hotel clerk $20 in this rural town in Minnesota to use their fax machine so we can get this all signed and delivered. We rush back just in time for the raft trip. We get on the raft trip. It's a 3-hour float. An hour and a half in, just one of the worst storms I've ever been in breaks out. So I'm thinking, and I'm in a raft. It's me and 5 junior high girls. And I'm like, all right, we got to paddle to the side. Let's get out of the water. And the raft guide's like, no, we got to paddle through this. And there is lightning, wind. Our boat's filling up with water. I'm thinking, I'm going to get fired if we don't die.
Oh, my God.
And so we make it through, and everybody's miserable. There's a little bit of adrenaline, but mostly everyone's just unhappy. And I get done, and I call the senior pastor afterward, and I was like, so I just want to let you know what happened. We were on this trip. The storm broke out. Everybody's okay, but it was really like the kids are really upset, and I'm going to take him out for ice cream now or something. He goes, okay, well, who else is with you? And I was like, yeah, it's me. And he's like, you took 17 junior high kids up to Minnesota by yourself? And I was like, yeah, the reception's not very good right now. I'll talk to you later. And,
Drop it.
That was both worst and weirdly enough, when we all got back from the trip, all the kids, all they could talk about was like, it was amazing. We were in this storm in the middle of a river in Minnesota. But yeah, that's the reason why I should have never gotten ordained is if anybody had ever found out about that trip, I broke all the rules.
I think the statute of limitations is passed, so you're fine.
It's a few, yeah.
So for me, you're gonna hate me for this. I know, because I kind of almost hate myself. Although hate is a strong word, but close to it. So years ago, when I was beginning my ministry, I was a local pastor at the time in Oak Cliff. It was Advent season, Christmas was coming, and I really wanted to share with the kids, the Christmas story. Jesus, Jesus is the reason for this one. I didn't say that, but kind of the mentality. And although he is. So I was doing children's time, and I asked the kids, what was the story of Christmas about? Why do we celebrate Christmas? And they say, Santa, and, Christmas presents and whatnot. And I told them, well, Santa is not real. And I was very I don't want to say proud, but I was like, I'm doing the right thing. How Santa is not real, Jesus is the one, the reason why we celebrate Christmas. And I didn't think anything of it. After the service, you can guess what happened.
Oh, I'm sure.
Parents came to me.
Sure, yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Ruin Christmas for our kids. And at that moment, just like that, it clicked. Yes, I'm Grinch. Worse than Grinch. So, my goodness, it was bad, horrible. Hopefully the kids, recover from that. I know they did, great kids. But, yeah, never do that,
Yeah.
Never do that. So, yeah. Well, one of the best things, that happened, I want to also mention that, was just recently at New World. They have been very loving and appreciative, of my ministry there, my family. So they really made the goodbye very significant and meaningful to us, the way they treat us and so on, how they spoke about, my time there. So kudos to them. Love you guys.
Yeah. I was thinking one of the best things in ministry that I've weirdly been able to experience was at Creekwood, and there were, I obviously won't say names, but there were 3 convicted felons in our congregation. And in a very suburban, very affluent area, that's just anathema to think of. And one of them was one in which we really okay, you can't work with kids kind of thing. 2 of them were very white collar crimes, but those 2 people, everybody, especially one of them, everybody knew about it, and he was beloved. He is just the guy who's there for everything. He helps out in whatever ways, and he's struggling financially because of the inability to get a job. But in that, people threw him a benefit concert when he had cancer diagnosis. The community just wrapped around him. So it was just the most amazing moment of grace to see this lived out of when you go up to Fairview, Lucas, Allen area, it's so image driven. There's such an image of perfection. And for a church like that to wrap its arms around somebody who's literally been in the paper for financial crimes, and not as a pity thing, but just as we love this person. It was just authentic church at its best. It's always filled, and it's been amazing, to see that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't tell kids that anymore. So don't.
We had a moment at VBS at Creekwood where a girl lost her tooth. And she lost, and it was during snack time, and they threw away the tooth. She's in tears because she can't take this home for the tooth fairy. So a woman named Casey comes up with a letter, a formal letter that says, "Dear Tooth Fairy, this is the date and time, the location of the tooth. We can vouch for it. Signed, Pastor David."
Love it.
So I get presented this in this very formal way. Scribble my name down. We put it in a signed, sealed envelope, addressed to the Tooth Fairy, and give it to this girl, and she's still in tears. And so we all just basically make up this don't worry, this happens all the time. We've written letters to the Tooth Fairy before, and she's always responsive.
You'd be great.
So the mom sent us a picture the next day of her holding her little $5 bill or something. Which, who gets $5 for a tooth? That's insane. But it was a sweet moment of the church doing what, my associate Carrie Lynn Lucas always used to say, when we're working with kids, we're not worried about the parents. What's best for the kids? Yeah. And it was always a really great thing. So we're looking at this, and it's we could have just said, don't worry, it's not real. You're going to get money anyway. But we went through this whole production of what's best for this child's imagination right now, and all. It was pretty cool.
Of course.
Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus. Got it covered. We got it covered.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found that either it was on purpose or on accident, Hearst has this backpack ministry. So finding things that throwing fuel on the fire, right? Lots of churches have this where kids for the weekend get a little bag that helps, bridge the gap for food. If a church is doing something like that, it's a no-brainer to celebrate and support. I mean, feeding children is like, what more Jesus-y thing could you have? And so Hearst did this, and every year you raise funds to make sure. And so we had an opportunity to raise funds for the number of backpacks we were providing on a weekly basis to the different schools. And I don't know what came over me in worship that Sunday when we were announcing it. We had made this beautiful thermometer, about how we're going to raise the funds, and here's how much, and here's how you can give, and here's how much per backpack and what it does. And right before we were leaving, I was just like, you know what? I would love to never announce this again. And everybody kind of looked, and I was like, because by the time we come back to church, I'd love for this to be fully funded, and I don't want to have to announce this again. And wouldn't you know, by Thursday of that week, it was fully funded. Wow. And to be able to get up in church, probably around this time, around early September last year, and say, y'all did it. Like, it was the first big win. It was a total, I don't know, there was something that said, y'all can do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do something really hard together and celebrate it. And it was I think galvanizing usually is used like when there's something tough or hard that happens, but it was such a moment of just togetherness and hype that really has continued to feed us, spiritually. And so we're about to do the same thing again. And I'm really excited to see how that goes. We did a pre-announcement last Sunday. This week, you're going to get an email of what we're trying to raise. We don't even know what that number is yet, what we're trying to raise. And I would love to just show up next Sunday and celebrate it. You're going to get the email, you're going to fund it, and we're not going to announce it anymore and have to take up a special offering because it's just going to get funded. And in under 24 hours, we were halfway there. Wow, and that's awesome. I think it's actually fully funded now. So, but I haven't gotten the final numbers yet. But it's those little things, that's practically when we were talking about being the cheerleader in chief and throwing fuel in the fire, seeing an opportunity for the church to do something that feels big. Yeah. Even if it's something they've been doing for years, right? How can we elevate this in a way that we're gonna do something big? And that felt new again. Yeah. The backpack ministry felt new again because we were able to do something that felt like a challenge, and we accomplished it. So,
backpack ministry is such a good and easy kind of first win. That very early time at Martin, they had done backpack ministry for any number of years. It's really good, important stuff. As you said, if we don't champion anything else, what are we doing?
Let's feed some kids.
Right. But they'd always done it kind of in a back room, set part in a way. Like 8 people were in, it was one of those, it was the passion project for these 8 to 15 people. Yeah. And they all just kind of did it in a very small way back in the corner. And periodically we'd talk about it and ask for some money. But that was nobody was involved. I mean, on scale, right? And so, at several other large churches in the past, we'd set up the huge line and, and so we now have Big Pack Sunday. Second Sunday after school starts in the fall and the second Sunday after school's back in the spring, where we do, a 6 weeks worth or whatever, all up and down Wooten Hall and all through the morning of worship to get every human who shows up to worship that day engaged and invested in feeding these kids, right? Yeah. It's not magic. It's not new. It wasn't even genius or anything like that. It was just, we're going to get people engaged and involved, and fundraising for it is so much easier now than it ever was. Right.
Absolutely.
Because people are more connected to it, and they're...
Yes, and it feels important, and we use good language around it because it helps us, communicate why we're doing something and why it's important. Yeah. And it's good.
Well, I think one thing as it relates to the production of Light of the World, Salvation Poem is like a 25, 30-person ministry, so we're quite small. So we needed partners to be able to make the film. So we auditioned several different animation studios, but we selected one in Ireland. So they were doing all of the animation. We did the story and all the art at a studio in Cincinnati, but we did all the animation in Ireland. And, I would say when we first started, the vast majority were not Christians. Okay. And, there was some very salty language that was being used. And, just over time dealing with them, and they were all wonderful people, but you could just see them starting to ask questions. And, I I have never heard anyone say I converted because of this film, but I definitely think it was a really positive experience for them because we treated them with a tremendous amount of respect. That's not always the case in the entertainment business, you know, especially when a vendor studio is working with someone, they just want the job done. They don't really care what happens to the lives of the people involved. They're just, it's a very transaction-oriented thing. So that was one of the really unique things, is working with a studio very different from us culturally, but the subject matter was really a cohesive connection point that it was the most happy crew I've ever been a part of. Everybody got along very, very genuinely, liked one another. And of course, there were stressful moments and there were disagreements, as you'll have, but it was just always rooted in this scriptural setting of this film that brought everybody to this place of let's just work together and figure it out, which is a really special thing. And like I said, is not typical for most productions. Yeah. It's very contentious and hard. And, you know, you have a lot of really talented people who think their ideas are the best. So you can see how that can go awry very quickly if you're not careful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not like in the church in a traditional way, and so most of my stories are with, you know, kids. I can tell you, you know, I can tell you a really weird, funny story that I had many years ago after I was in the Dallas Morning News. So the story is that I had the Dallas Morning News had written this big story about the work that I was doing on violin and bringing music to low-income kids in East Dallas. It was a ministry of Grace United Methodist Church at the time out of that space. And I had gotten invited to be interviewed by this really big guy who had a lot of funding. And when I came to sit down, my nervous system was so dysregulated, and I had been offered a glass of water, and I was shaking, and I knocked the water down all over the place. And it was right before he had come in, and so we were cleaning everything up and getting everything down. And what was an interesting moment, it was so humiliating, but what was an interesting moment is walking away knowing if I was that anxious, it probably wasn't in alignment with what God wanted for me. And it turned out not to be. So, you know, it was one of those weird moments where I'm humiliated, it didn't seem like the best thing, and an opportunity to beat up on myself, but then to realize in prayer, actually, in this horrible thing that felt like it happened, that it was actually communication, that my body was saying, this is not actually the path I want to go down in that. But so.
It's amazing the ways that God talks to us. Through our bodies, through our community, through people of wisdom in our life that help us navigate those moments that can be radically self-defeating, right? But don't have to stay that place.
Yeah. So feel free to share. If you want. You. But
for me, the best, I think, experience over the last 30 years, let's say, has been being a faculty in residence in a first-year, first-year student dorm. My wife and I were called faculty in residence. For 24 years, we lived in a dorm.
Really?
Over the last 24 years. So I missed that, and it was just a blast to get to know undergrads, to live with them. I mean, we had boundaries, but we had our own apartment. We didn't have to take showers with them. But it was just a blast to get to know them, and I think it also kept me in touch with popular culture, which was maybe where my love has kind of continued to generate. Yeah. Probably the worst is having to fire somebody. I never liked doing and I haven't had to do it very much, but I had to recently in the last couple years, last 3 years. And I just hate that. I never want to fire someone again. And then the weirdest thing that's happened to me, I think, is I do a lot of congregational consultants, and I have my classes organized where they do it too. So we'll go on field trips and observe a church, especially if it's asked for our help. We went to one church in New England. I won't name it, but we went to the service, and afterwards we all kind of got together and compared notes, and we realized there had not been a prayer in the whole service. There wasn't an invocation. There wasn't a pastoral prayer. There wasn't a benediction. There was no moment in the whole service where anyone prayed.
Holy cow.
And then you ask yourself, why is this church having problems? Anyway, that was the weirdest thing. Maybe not the weirdest thing I've ever encountered in life, but that was certainly in ministry and education. That was a tough one.
Yeah, that's shocking.
I know. We go what's going on here?
That has to be like an intentional choice. Right?
Right? I mean,
every order of worship you've ever seen.
How does it slip away? I mean,
right. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and so I mean that was front and center when we give them our advice. You know, our consultant.
Pray, people.
Right. That's the lesson
fantastic. You mentioned your love for staying connected to pop culture a couple of times over the course of the podcast and here now. Can you definitively tell us what this 6-7 trend is about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
No, I really don't. What is? So I don't know.
So
6-7.
Right. So 6-7 is this thing. It started as a TikTok trend. It has like taken over middle schools and elementary schools. The high school kids are too cool for it, although they were probably the original audience. To the best of my understanding, it's intended to describe like, how was it? Okay, like right? And so 6-7 is the thing. But it functionally means nothing. And yet, if you want to get any elementary age child to just light up, go 6-7, and they're like 6-7, you know, like so. Anytime the two numbers come up, like in standard conversation, right?
Is it because on a scale of 1 to 10, 6-7 is just kind of meh?
That makes sense to me, but it's unclear.
I have not heard this.
So,
see, I'm already missing being around undergrads.
You
I
are.
would know this by now.
Although they'd probably be too cool for
right.
it at this point. But yeah, we had trunk or treat last week at the church, and I had not thought of a good costume for trunk or treat. So my wife and I went as 6-7.
No.
And we just printed out the giant number 6 and and it made people laugh. And I'm like, great, I didn't have to try hard at this at all. But yeah, no, our high schooler is over it, but the other two kids.
Thanks for the education today. Now, I'm really actually happy to know any little things like that.
So it's a goofy trend. It's a dumb trend, but it's a thing.
Early on in ministry, I remember going in to make a hospital visit. I got a call about a guy being in the ER, and so I drove up there as quickly as I could and went into the ER room, and he was in there with his family. You know, they're all around, and there was this fly flying around the room. And the fly just would kind of keep buzzing the patient and then buzz the family. And you know how flies are. Mm-hmm. So I have a gift. I don't know if y'all have the gift, but I have the gift of being able to catch flies.
Okay.
So it just occurred to me that it would be inappropriate for me to just grab this fly. I should ask the family first. So I just said, would y'all be okay if I catch this fly? And they said, please do. And the fly flew by me, and I thought about grabbing him out of the air, but that would have been a little showy. So I let him go by. I was just going to catch him once he landed. And so he buzzed around the room, and he lands right on Bubba's stomach. Bubba's laying there in the ER bed, and now he's got this fly. The family looks at me, and so I got ready. Now, it's different than off of a hard surface, because what you don't want to do is hit the patient that's in the ER, you know, so it's a little more complicated than just a typical grab. So I got it all lined up and got ready and calculated everything and swooped in there and grabbed the fly. Now, I don't know if you know you don't, because you don't have the gift. But one of the things that happens is you can catch flies, but if you open your hand too quickly, they'll just fly out. So you have to help them move on to glory. And so I did. Yeah. And then I realized, and I looked over, and there's a trash can, and so I just flicked it. Well, it's kind of stuck on me a little bit and went a little bit right, but the Lord was with me that day, because that trash can was in the corner, and it banked off right in there.
Wow.
And the family looked at me, and I'm not going to say it was a water to wine moment, but for that family at that point in time, it was pretty close.
Signs and wonders.
It was pretty close.
And they're telling that story.
They're telling it. Well, here's the other thing. Then I shifted back to being a pastor, and so I said, "Let us pray."
And they didn't want to hold you.
Well, no, that part's not true. Actually, I did this first.
Oh, okay,
Then,
all right.
Then we did. But thinking back on that, one of the things that occurred to me was I should have listed that as a gift when I was going before the board of Ordained Ministry.
Oh, yeah.
I should have, because I'm pretty certain that would have kept me from being deferred.
Right.
Yeah.
But I missed it anyway.
It's a unique
That
gift.
is
I just thought you may not have had any fly stories before, so I just thought I'd.
I'm just glad that you didn't catch it, with your
Yeah, I
tongue.
know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know.
No, I don't do that.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
not
that's
that
good.
kind of catcher.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, it's amazing. That's amazing. Tim, you got anything?
Yeah, I was doing a series of sermons on the fruit of the Spirit.
Okay.
And I'm going to change the name of the woman to protect the innocent. So I'm going to say it was Terry Johnson, who made a series of banners. And she was making them one week at a time as we went through the series. Love, joy, peace, patience, so forth, all the way across. And we got to self-control. And it was the end of the series. And so I was again thanking her early in the service, kind of in the announcement time. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much to Terry Johnson for these beautiful banners that she has made, and they were beautiful. And then I looked around, and Terry wasn't there. She always was there. So I looked around. I said, "Well, I don't see Terry this morning, but when you see her, be sure to give her a hug. Thank her for this." Way of enhancing our worship. So service went on, and in that service we were worshiping in a multi-purpose space, and so I sat on the front row. We didn't have chairs up front or anything. And at some point Terry came in, but I didn't know she had come in. So I started preaching. I was talking about self-control, and I got and at a certain point I said, and sexual self-control is one of those areas of self-control that's so important. I mean, when we lack sexual self-control, it's like, and at that moment, I looked, and there's Terry Johnson sitting there. And I shudder to think about it, but when I saw her, I said her name.
Oh, no.
And so it came out, lack of sexual self-control is so destructive, like, Terry Johnson.
Oh, no. Oh, Tim.
Oh, it looked like she had been shot, the look on her face. I mean, and then it was like, because she didn't know, not earlier. And so I said, Terry, you weren't here earlier when I was talking about the banners, and I didn't see you come in.
Oh, Lord. Oh.
20 years later, we were in Houston. It happened in Houston, and we were there and ran into her. And the first thing she mentioned was that sermon.
Oh.
Talk about telling a story.
Oh, goodness.
But the look on her face when she thought I was calling her out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Lord. Oh. Be glad that wasn't in the era of the internet, right? Because that could have been flipped in just the wrong way. And lived forever.
Yes.
Oh,
I know.
Oh. Rob, as you were telling your story, I was reminded of our executive admin at Martin's been there for 24 years. She lost her husband 22 years ago due to cancer, right? But she tells the story of, he's on hospice. They've got the hospital bed at the house, their home, and the family had gathered to say kind of the final goodbye, right? A poignant and hard but meaningful moment. And Wade really loved his cat, and his cat really loved him. And so the cat was snuggled up there with him, and Wade dies, And so as they're waiting for the funeral home to get there, the family kind of, just has their moment of grief, but then kind of, continues the conversation. And about 15 minutes or so after they've, after Wade has died and after they move to a different space, his stomach, the sheet on his stomach begins to levitate up. And everybody begins to get really freaked out. Like, what is happening here? And then the cat hops out. And so the fly on the stomach bit was like, oh, this could go really sideways if we're not careful. But and they still laugh about that to this day. Holy cow, what's happening today? Yeah.
I've got two. I can go.
Go for it.
Short one for the weirdest. I don't know if it's the weirdest, but it's a short one, and it's definitely it was an odd moment. One of the first weddings that I officiated, the bride's family had failed to actually purchase the music that she was going to walk down to, which was like a Carrie Underwood song or something. And so in lieu of her walking down to a Carrie Underwood song, instead the doors opened as she stood there in her wedding dress, and we all heard over the loudspeakers, "The new Ford Focus coming to the dealership near you." It was a YouTube ad. Yes! That's good. And I let an audible guffaw into the microphone. I could not contain myself. That was a wheels-off wedding. There were so many things that went wrong.
Got to do that premium
A
membership.
learning experience. Things that I've learned to ask since. So best is also hard to quantify. There's so many bests. But one that came to mind is a story that I tell from time to time, just because I think it captures the way that as a pastor, I learned how to learn from the laity at an early stage in my ministry. I was finishing up seminary. I'd just gotten commissioned. I was at Lover's Lane at the time. I just made the jump from being on staff to being appointed there. And my first assignment in adult ministry, because I'd been with the kids ministry up until that point, was with a midweek contemplative communion service, which if you knew me at the time was like the weirdest assignment to give 26-year-old Scott, because I was younger than I am today. I was somehow more arrogant than I am today, and energetic.
Did you say this was while you were at Perkins?
Say
were you at Perkins when this happened? Yeah.
And
I knew Scott then.
Yeah.
Not arrogant at all.
I'm sorry. Yeah, shut up. And
thank God for Reagan.
Seriously. So I go in, and it is what you think it is. It's about 30-ish people that very faithfully this is their like grounding place. But there was incense and taze music, and we did Word and Table 2 every single week, and it was just my kryptonite at the time. I was like, this is terrible. I hate this. And also, like, we need more people, because that's what ministry needs. We just need more people. And the reason we don't have more people is because there's not enough energy, and it's just, and it's just boring. Yeah. And everyone must feel the same way I do. And so I started bringing all these changes, right? Because, I'd been there for 5 minutes, so why not change everything?
Start tinkering.
Yeah, exactly. So we got some guitar, we got some, let's pump this music up a little bit. Let's shake things up a little bit.
Pump out the jams.
About 6 weeks into those wonderful changes, a couple of the members scheduled a meeting with me, and they were old enough to be my grandmothers, and they looked terrified to meet with me. They were both former Catholics, and in the faith of their childhood, you did not tell the priest what to do, so they were very nervous to meet. And anyways, over the course of about 30 minutes, they very nicely told me how much they hated all the changes that had been made. But it wasn't just like the classic, like, I don't like change because it's change. Like, what they did was they articulated why the changes were difficult for them. One of the women, her name was Peggy, and she gave me permission to share the story. She's since passed. And she told me, Scott, I have Parkinson's. And she didn't need to tell me that, because you could see from Peggy's embodiment that she had Parkinson's. She tremored constantly, and she said, my body's always shaking. I'm nearly always in some level of pain. But when I walk into that space, when I walked into what it used to be like, and I smelled the incense, and I sat down in the pew, and I allowed the silence to take hold, and we would begin to sing those songs, I would just find myself just sort of falling into the rhythm of the repetition, and then I knew what the liturgy was going to be, and I could hear myself like reciting it along with the pastor. She said, Scott, for 45 minutes every week, my body would grow still. And that's the only time that I would feel my body grow still. And I haven't felt that for the last 6 weeks. And so in that moment, of course, it's just that like,
your heart breaks into a million pieces.
Gosh, I'm such an idiot. Yeah. Here I am writing paperwork about sacramental theology, thinking I've got it figured out what means of grace is, or the real presence of Christ. And Peggy's teaching me about the power of Holy Communion and what it means to encounter Christ at the table. And so that experience at that stage of my ministry was so important, because it humbled me a ton really quickly, and just taught me the power of showing up and doing a lot of listening and trying to understand where people are and how they're connecting with God before I begin to pretend to have an idea about how I might help aid in that process. So, anyways, yeah.
Beautiful.
There's a story.
We thank God for saints like Peggy.
We love Peggy. Yes.
I'm just like moved by that. Like, it's so beautiful when people trust you enough to like come to you like in respect and like kind of lay out what's going wrong without like sending an anonymous note or an email. Like,
so much integrity. Yeah.
Thank God for the saints. So best, worst, weirdest. I'm going to stick with my time in Crum.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if you know any church planters, like you've done it, like you have like you can have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in like the same 12-hour period.
Yeah.
Like it's just a roller coaster, and especially when we were getting started. So I'll start with the worst. April of 2024, we had our first Easter. We weren't worshiping weekly at that point. I think it was like our third or fourth worship gathering we had after 6, 8, 9 months, whatever. Had a great Easter. It was great. There were like 70 or so people in the room. It was awesome. Had a good offering, which like in a church plant, it's like, okay, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be able to like actually send my paycheck to myself and like we're going to be able to pay the bills and do whatever. But the next day we were overdrawn in all of our accounts because a bill hit for property insurance that I didn't know was coming. And for almost that whole month of April, we were overdrawn and like had to delay my paycheck and, you know, racking up those fees and like our bank was local. And so it's like, it's embarrassing. They're right across the street, you know, and having to say, we dug out. People were incredibly faithful. A month after that, though, we had a water leak in the sanctuary.
Oh, no.
That lasted for 4 days because we thought it was a roof leak. Ended up being a hot water pipe that had cracked.
Oh, my God.
It's like, why 4 days later it's still flowing, like actively dripping? And like one of the remediation guys is like, it's warm. Finally. So like after digging ourselves out of that hole, in the midst of it, we had to come up with a deductible of like $5,000 and like, but God brought the right people in to get us out of it. But like, we're not going back to that. It's like that, like that first year of marriage, which is like really hard. Like there's high highs, low lows as you're figuring life out. Best, we just had our first confirmation class.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And so confirmed my two kids, my two youth. So we had 5, confirmed my oldest 2, and baptized the other 3 by immersion. Awesome. Which is something I learned how to do as United Methodist when I was in Paris. Dallin Morgan had brought that tradition to Connections, and so kind of inherited that. And the youth were like, we want to be immersed.
Yeah.
And so it's always fun to go down to the feed store, buy the stock tank. We had to move it inside, and it was like this whole thing because the weather was turning, but like we did it, and just beautiful moment, the photos, and just like high. Yeah. It was like we're really doing something. It's something very traditional for a church plant, especially. Weirdest, one of our first big gatherings, we did in Crum, we did a blessing of the animals. We've got this great yard, like 16-foot cross and flame on the front of the building. We're like, what can we do to get people together? We'll do a blessing of the animals. Like a lot of dogs, totally fine. I think we may have had 1 cat, but there's a pig rescue in Crum.
Okay.
There's a pig rescue. And like people have their potbelly pigs or whatever, or livestock pigs, and they're like, we don't want to have it anymore. In Denton County, Animal Services like calls the Crum Pig Rescue. And so we invited them over. That's and awesome. I blessed 2 pigs.
There we go.
One was a little piglet named Bam Bam. He screamed a lot until literally I like.
Well, pigs and blessing like, don't always come. You know, Jesus had a little interesting relationship with some pigs in terms.
These are pets.
Okay.
They did not end up as bacon.
Okay.
They're very loved.
And not in the lake
I would
or
say
off the
they
cliff.
Didn't end up
Man.
Lake Ray Roberts.
They're like 18, 20 at the time. Be like a whole. Pigs have like an estate. So, anyways.
Okay.
That was the weirdest moment. Blessing a piglet.
Blessing a pig.
Huh. There you go.
Yeah.
I've cooked pigs in the name of Jesus before. I've not blessed any pigs.
Haven't we all? I mean, it is a blessing, right?
It is. It
Gotta
is.
be respectful
Right.
to this offering and cook it well.
We do. What
Gave
one-
its life for you.
One time when we were in Keller, our building guy was a good old country boy. And so we were kicking off our summer of ministry and all that with, one of those big gather everybody for a picnic and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we had 2 giant smokers out on the parking lot with piglets in each one. We've got pulled pork going and whole hog in the smoker all day. And we get to the end of it and we're pulling it off. And he's like, "You want the best bite on this thing?" I said, "Sure, absolutely." Like, "It's the pig cheek." I'm like, "There's no way, Brad. You are messing with me, right? There's no way." He's like, "No, it's the best bite on the whole hog right here." I'm like, "Well, you eat it first." Okay. Fish it off, pops it in there. And like, Brad didn't have a poker face, right? And so he popped in and happy as a clam, right? I'm like, "Okay, I'll try it." The best bite ever. He wasn't lying to me. He wasn't pulling my leg. If you're ever cooking whole hog,
There we
again,
go.
pig cheek, way to go.
Okay.
So ever come back to Martin, have whole hog with the Tongan community.
Oh, I
make
miss
sure you
it.
get the
I miss it.
cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Lord's Acre, that's the best. That's the best meal
You
of the year
talk
right
about
there.
the food all the time. Like
Hey,
with your
it's the
community,
best
man.
food.
Like
It's the best food.
It's good stuff.
the Tongan people
Right?
know how to eat.
I remember when they
Tongans
first
and
joined the-
Texans mean that, there's a reason why most of us are
Bro.
offensive linemen. It's okay.
When they first joined the church and they were like, "Hey, yeah, we normally do barbecue for Lord's Acre," and they were like, "Oh, okay, sure, we're happy to contribute." And then that night, I was the youth director at the time. I was walking out, leaving, and I thought there was like an animal or something digging in the old sand volleyball. Every church has a decrepit sand volleyball court, with weeds. What is out there? And then I see a shovel head. And I'm what? And they were digging out the sand because they had 2 whole hogs down there. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good tomorrow."
Our
yeah.
welcome to Martin luau for the new pastor and the family. There were 2 hogs on the table that my kids were, and I was like, in heaven, my 2-year-old was looking at me like, "Daddy, what's happening right now?"
Yeah.
I'm not
And
entirely
you're
sure.
like, I'm having an experience.
Yeah.
I also miss the egg rolls. Those.
Like, won't God do it?
Yep. That's all good.
All right.
So there's a lot of really best moments, and being in my role as bishop, serving as the bishop of the synod here, I get to ordain pastors. Yeah. And that's great. I don't get to do very many baptisms or things like that anymore, but I get to ordain pastors. And one of the pastors I ordained was actually in my youth group at my call before I was elected bishop.
Very cool.
And so to ordain him at the altar where he was baptized, confirmed, and then now ordained, and we had a role in that. I mean, I get a little. Now he and I have a good rapport, so if he ever hears this, he's gonna think, "Bishop, you're being sappy." but that was probably one of the best moments that I've had in ministry.
Very cool. That level of connection across time and space is powerful.
It is.
Kenny, how about you? Best, worst, weirdest?
Well, I have a weirdest. I'll go. So, as a part of my ministry, I've done a lot of film reviews. I did a lot for the United Methodist Reporter back in the day. I have a podcast now, and as a part of that, I got connected with a group. They do public relations for independent films, and they get us a lot of opportunities to do interviews and that. And so back in the day when they were still doing a lot of junkets for films as opposed to now with Zoom, they would go to a hotel and they would bring in people. Well, my source or contact asked me if I was interested in interviewing Warren Beatty for his last film where it was about Howard Hughes. And I said, well, let me think about it. Yes, I mean, Warren Beatty,
Yeah.
and so I did some studying on him, and it dawned on me. Obviously, he's a great cinematic figure, but just a cultural figure. He divided that. He was coming to prominence, in the 50s and 60s or early 60s into the late 60s. A lot of stuff going on. And so as the studio system was dying out and something else was coming out, it's just all these things. He was at a party with Marilyn Monroe the night before she died. It's just all these, things. So we went in and to talk to him, and the handler, the person said, you have 15 minutes. Warren likes to talk a lot, so you have 15 minutes. I was like, oh, okay. So I went in, and he's very charming. Hey, I'm Warren Beatty. He's like, I know you are.
Yes, you are. That's apparent.
Very, very, very charming, and sat down, and he was fascinated. He specifically wanted to talk about, because his film was Rules Don't Apply. Mm-hmm. And it was about his story about dealing with a very family where rules were very rigid, and he wanted to talk about that. And so we were talking, and I had sort of prepped that, and I was talking about the faith understanding, and got into this conversation about the Judeo-Christian understanding of the Ten Commandments, of Jesus' commandments and rules, and how initially they're to build community and to protect community and not to be. And we were talking, and the handler came in, and he said, no, we're going to keep talking. I sat there 45 minutes with Warren Beatty, and then he started telling me about his dating life and all of that, and his, with Annette Benning and how they went out, and I'm sitting there looking at him, and in my head I'm going, if you'd have told me in seminary that this would lead me to spend 45 minutes talking to Warren Beatty about his dating life and his sex life, it was
not a class
strange.
for that.
It was strange, but it was a lot of fun.
Very good. Yeah. Rules don't apply, not for the 15 minutes, right?
That's
We're
right.
just going to keep going. Very cool. Very good.
So I was working on my holiday meal, right? And so one of the things that I do to relax is to push a buggy around the grocery store.
Okay.
And I was in the grocery store a couple of weeks ago, and from across the way, somebody said, Pastor Turnley. I was thinking, I'm just trying to get my greens, right? And so the person obviously walked up to say, I could see as I approached that there was a need. And she began to tell the story about a loved one that was in Fort Worth Hospital. And she said, Pastor, it's just, you don't know what you have done just to be in the grocery store with me. And I said, tell me more. So right there in the middle of the grocery store, we huddled over the basket and prayed the prayer that God gave us for her and for her loved one that was in hospital in Fort Worth. And so that Sunday morning, this was a Saturday, that Sunday morning, she came running down the aisle and said, Pastor, that thing we prayed about in the grocery store, God sent the word. And what the doctors couldn't do, she said, my brother got what he needed. And so I just say he can meet us wherever we are. In the grocery store she said, I said, no, you know our rules. We'll pray right here if it's okay with you. So we just huddled over that.
Yeah.
And it brought our hearts so much joy to see what God did for her family.
Yeah.
Because we just chose to huddle at the grocery store.
Amen.
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 It was a great time.
Such a gift.
Yeah. He's so faithful.
It's amazing when we pray with folks what can happen. Even if it's not something that we can point to, this is the miracle that came from it, right? Because sometimes God does the healing quickly, right? Through the miracles we can't explain. Sometimes the healing comes slowly through the medical pieces that God has given us, and sometimes it comes in glory. But there is something healing in the praying together.
Yes.
In that moment. And saying, you matter to God, you matter to me, your loved one matters to God, and we're going to make that clear and vivid and true right here and right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amen.
So that was a great moment for me in the last couple of days.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's very different than the grocery store story that I experienced probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
We were church planting in West Keller, and our church had a very small community of Nigerian immigrants in the church, and a lot of them lived over on the west side where we were planting the new campus of our church. And was walking through the grocery store one day, right? And, we Methodists are all things in moderation kind of people, right? And so I found myself on the beverage aisle examining some choices. And from the end of the aisle, I hear one of our church members go, "Say it isn't so, preacher." and as he's coming down the aisle, I said, "Say it isn't so for you too. You're on the same aisle.
You're on the same aisle with me, right?"
And so what I did learn is that, it is common in Nigeria to have a Guinness and Coke. We think about like Jack and Coke maybe as a combination.
Yeah.
Guinness and Coke is a thing.
It's a thing.
And so he was there to get his Guinness to go with his Coke. But we had a good chuckle about that.
Okay.
We didn't pray in that moment.
It was not on aisle number 5.
No,
right?
it wasn't, but it was a fun little kind of moment of,
we had to have those.
Say it isn't so, preacher.
Say
It's
it
like,
isn't so, preacher. Okay, that's
But
great.
it was
Well,
fun.
we run into everybody at the
We do.
grocery store. Yeah.
We do.
Yes.
It's the joy of ministry.
It is.
What I love is seeing the little kids from church anywhere outside of church. Because it's like when they see their teachers, it's like, you exist somewhere outside of school, or you exist somewhere outside
Yes, absolutely.
But it's fun.
I used to be the children's pastor, so,
so
I
you know
can
that
relate
vividly.
to that.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a best ministry experience from a communion. It's a communion story.
Oh, nice.
When I first was entering into ministry, I served as the youth pastor at University United Methodist Church, which is my home church.
Oh, very good.
Where I grew up, and my parents still attend, so all good. But my last Sunday there, before I moved to First Hurst to begin my internship, we had communion, and I got to serve. And just being able to watch all of the people who had loved and nurtured me and supported me and were sending me off, and to be able to call them by name and to gather, and then they prayed over me at the end of the service like that. That was such a blessing and one of the best highlights of ministry for me. And I was just beginning, right? It's only gotten better in so many ways. So
I love that.
I'm grateful to them.
Amen. Relationships of people who've been invested in you a long time.
Yeah.
It's the great gift of ministry.
Yes.
Yeah. Lee, did you have a best, worst, or weirdest?
I actually have both. I'll start
Nice.
with the worst because it happened very early, probably week 2 of my ministry.
Okay.
When I first entered the ministry, and let me just say, I was absolutely green. I knew nothing, right? I was appointed to what was then Westcliff United Methodist Church that merged with Overton Park and became Arbor Lawn. So I was blessed to be a part of that coming together. But before that happened, I was appointed to Westcliff. And I think it was my second week. Don Scott, who was a senior pastor, was on vacation. I'd been appointed as a local pastor. Hadn't even taken my first seminary class yet. I'd been to licensing school. That was it. And so he was gone, and I was sitting in my office wondering what I was supposed to be doing with myself. and the receptionist, office manager, came down, and she said, "Hey, I just got a call. Ben Feemster's in the hospital." And I said, "Great. Who's Ben Feemster?" And she said, "You don't know who Ben Feemster is?" I said, I don't. And she said, "Well, he was a longtime pastor, former district superintendent, was a candidate for bishop one time. Sunday school class down the hall's named for him, Ben Feemster." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "And he's in the hospital. He's in the emergency room downtown." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "You need to go see him." I said, "You're serious?" And she said, "Yeah, you need to go right now." So I got in my car. I barely knew where the hospital was, right? And I'm driving downtown praying that I'm going to have a flat or something because I've got nothing, right? This guy's going to see right through me. He's going to realize how, I know nothing. But I make my way to the hospital. I don't have a flat. And I made my way to the hospital, went in and found him in the emergency room. He and his wife, Pat. Ben was battling cancer at the time. And they just immediately put me at ease. He was just the nicest man I'd ever met. And he said, "Hey, pull up a stool. Tell me who you know." And I just immediately just kind of put me at ease. And I mean, he knew, right? He knew that I knew nothing. But and so we kind of get through that. And so finally, kind of came time for me to step out. And Ben said, would you pray for me?" And I said, I think I can do that. I think I'm okay. I think I can do this. So I stand up, and Pat was on the other side of the bed, and we all held hands, and I went, and just as I was about to start, the curtain pulled back, and the bishop walked in. Bishop Chamness. And Ben said, "Oh, Bishop, you know Lee Trigg." Well, of course, he had no idea who I was, And Lee was about to pray for us.
That's great.
And I thought to myself, it's just, this has nowhere to go but up from here, right? And so I tried to convince the bishop that it was probably better if he prayed, and he would hear none of it. And so I stumbled through something, but the good part of it is that Ben and I became good friends, and we were friends for the rest of his life. And I remained close to Pat even after he passed away, and so it was a great relationship. But it was a very rocky start.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And then my best, it was a real easy one to remember. I was doing a baptism on a confirmation retreat. Young man in the confirmation class who had not been baptized, and he really wanted to be immersed. Yeah. And so we had decided we were doing a retreat at Glen Lake, and so we decided we would baptize him in the lake at Glen Lake during the retreat, and we invited his family to come up and be there for his baptism. And so we're all standing out there. He's gone in and changed, and he has his bathing suit on. I have my shorts and T-shirt on, and we're just waiting to go down to do his baptism. And his mother and his father and his younger sister were all standing there. And I was just standing there with him. We were just chatting, and out of the blue, his dad said, I guess I've never been baptized.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Is there anything that would prevent me from being baptized today?" And I went, "No, sir. That would be great." And so I baptized him in the lake, and then his first act as a baptized Christian was to help me baptize his son. Oh. And it was just one of those moments that I will never forget. So.
That's powerful.
Yes.
You ever wonder how many powerful moments like that lake at Glen Lake's been a part of?
Can you imagine? Yeah.
The one immersion baptism I did in that lake, I nearly bit the dust on. The little rock you walk down.
Yes.
Just
it's really slick.
David McMahon and I were baptizing somebody who'd been one of his college students who was on staff with us, or coming on staff with us at church, and we nearly didn't make it down the bottom of the ramp before to get the baptism done. But that's the way it goes. Yeah. But powerful.
Yeah.
So cool. Thank you so much for joining us today on Pod Strangely Warmed. We hope you laughed as you heard some of those amazing stories of the weirdest moments of ministry. If you've had your own experience of a best moment, a worst moment, or a weirdest moment in ministry as a pastor, a church staff person, or a lay leader in the church, we want to hear from you. So make sure you drop that in the comments of this episode so that we can share the joy that is working alongside Christ in partnership with Him and with each other. Until next time, I'm Daniel Hawkins, and this has been Pod Strangely Warmed. This has been Pod Strangely Warmed. If you enjoyed our conversation today, know that you can find us anywhere you find podcasts. On Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, any and all the places, we are there. So if you want to continue the good United Methodist conversation that you've been a part of today, find us, like us, rate us, review us, and share with a friend, so that the good news that is happening right here in our own midst can amplify even more.
Do we want to do any other?
Do you have any ministry best, worst, or weirdest that need to get entered in? I mean, as
slightly,
the reigning champion?
Not at this moment right now, no.
Slightly less best than your last one. Or worst, I guess.
Let me tell you about this Johnny Brower guy.
He had his birthday yesterday.
He did.
Oh, he's also your boss.